Chapter 4, text 1. Chapter is called as the appearance of Sri Nārada. Vyasa vacha iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha shatrinam vridakula pati sutam Bhāgavatam Śaunaka brāvit iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha shatrinam vridakula pati sutam Bhāgavatam Śaunaka brāvit iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha shatrinam vridakula pati sutam Bhāgavatam Śaunaka brāvit
Vyasa vacha iti bruvanam samstuyam muninam dirgha satrinam vriddha kulapatih sutam Bhāgavatam Śaunaka brāvit Vyasa vacha iti bruvanam samstuyam
muninam dirgha satrinam vridakula pati shutam bahurcha Śaunaka brāvit
Anybody else?
Vyasa vacha
iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridda kulapati sutam Bhagavatam Śaunaka brāvit
Vyasa uvacha iti bruvanam samstuyam muninam dirgha satrinam vriddha kulapati sutam Bhāgavatam Śaunaka brāvit
Vyasa Vyasadev Vacha said iti thus bruvanam speaking samstuya congratulating muninam of the great sages dirgha prolonged shatrinam of those engaged in the performance of sacrifice vruddha elderly kulapati head of the assembly sutam onto Sutta Goswami Bahu Rucha learned Śaunaka of the name Śaunaka address. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, Śaunaka Muni who was elderly, learned leader of all the Rishis, engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Purport. In a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualifications of the congratulator should be as follows. He must be the leader of the house and an elderly man. He must be vastly learned also. Śaunaka Rishi had all these three qualifications, and thus he stood up to congratulate Sri Sutta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Srimad Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from Sukadev Goswami, and also realized it personally. Personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous Acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous Acharya, and at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a particular manner. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. The leader of the assembly, Śaunaka, could estimate the value of the speaker, Sri Sutta Goswami, simply by uttering Yadaditam and Yatha Mati. And therefore, he was very glad to congratulate him in ecstasy. No learned man should be willing to hear from a person who does not represent the original Acharya. So the speaker and the audience were bona fide in this meeting, where Bhagavatam was being recited for the second time. This should be the standard of recitation of Bhagavatam, so that its real purpose can be served and Lord Krishna can be realized without difficulty. Unless this situation is created, Bhagavatam recitation will be for ulterior purposes, and such recitation is useless labor both for the speaker and for the audience. Let's all recite Mangalacharan prayers together.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Swaminam Ekha Bhutale Swayam Bhuvadalamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandenam Shri Guru Shri Bhagavatam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sarvanatam Vitamaham Sajivam Savayam Savrutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sarvanarata Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Bhakta Radha Namaste Tata Kanchana Vani Radhe Radhe Vishnu Sudeve Brahmanya Manchakaramatu Vyasya Kripasindhu Vyayevcha Patitanam Bhavayeyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
I thought I'll start with talking a little bit about Srila Prabhupada, because that always sets the mood correctly. We've heard quite a lot of times that Srila Prabhupada, in Prabhupada's last days, he will still be translating Srimad Bhagavatam, right? We've heard that so many times. But if we actually looked at his external features, he was so weak, he could not stand up. Forget standing up, he could not even sit properly. He could not sit at all. He could not even press the button of the dictaphone. And he had not eaten for many, many weeks, months. He had not eaten almost for a month. And he was lying flat on his back. So there is no question of preparing himself to give the purport. So he was just speaking whatever he could understand, then he was just speaking. So what used to happen is his secretary or Pradumna Prabhu would actually say the shloka, then give word to word, and then Prabhupada would start. And then Jayadvaita Maharaj would press the dictaphone, and then Srila Prabhupada would start speaking the purport. A lot of times his words were, even dictaphone was not able to catch the words. But he still kept on going. He still kept on giving the purports to the shlokas, to Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you look at the external features, it looks like there's nothing left. Right? He's lost to the material, he's so weak, he's lost to the material conditions. It seems like that. But internally he was so strong that he was still able to give purpose to that Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Srila Prabhupada one time was lying flat on his bed, had not eaten for a long time, and he said, I'm finished, I now have finished eating, I have conquered sleeping, there is no desire for sex, everything is over for me, I'm just a bag of bones. And if I'm just a bag of bones, what is the point of you guys praying for me to praying Krishna that please keep me alive? So Prabhupada was saying that in one of his final days. His final days, Prabhupada had become so weak that disciples didn't even want to, even now, don't want to look at his Anta Leela pictures. So he had become that weak. Then Srila Prabhupada, to that response, again he continued, he said, I'm doing all this so that we could develop, so it is my duty to draw from you this attachment to me. I'll repeat that. It is my duty to draw from you this attachment to me. So Srila Prabhupada was trying to establish an attachment. He was already attached to his disciples, but he was trying to create that attachment from his disciple to him, so that once he leaves, the disciples are able to survive. And if we extend that a bit further, he wrote these purports because he's trying to get us attached to Krishna. And he's trying to get us attached to the parampara, to the acharyas. And that's the reason why he's been giving purports till the very end. So today, let's, with that mode, continue understanding, continue reading this verse. So in the previous chapter, we saw that Sutta Goswami is responding to the 6 questions, right? And the last question was, does anybody remember what was the last question?
After Krishna leaving to his abode, so where the dharma?
Yes. Where would the dharma be after Krishna leaves? And what was the response by Sutta Goswami? Yes. Yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is leaving behind Srimad Bhagavatam for everybody, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like the brilliant sun. So he left behind Srimad Bhagavatam for us. So Srimad Bhagavatam was first spoken by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. And Sutta Goswami was there. He was there when the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken. Now 6 questions have been asked, they have been answered. Ideally Srimad Bhagavatam is over. One would think Srimad Bhagavatam is over, but Śaunaka Rishi is so excited and he's so eager to learn, he's so anxious that he thinks this is just the starter. And he wants to know more and more about Krishna. That happens right when we love someone, we want to know more and more about that person. What happened? Recently in the news in India, back in India, in the news is Ambani's son's pre-wedding, right? And we can hear so many discussions happening, and how many crores was the watch, what was she wearing, who was the designer, and then people are asking more and more questions. The discussion goes on for hours, and all the news channels 24/7 are displaying that news, the pre-wedding of the son of Ambani. I don't even know his name, but his son. And that discussion goes on. So when you're really curious to know about something, you ask more and more questions. So Śaunaka Rishi is very excited, very enthusiastic, he's anxious, he wants to know more about Krishna. So what's going to happen in this chapter is, for the first 14-15 verses, Śaunaka Rishi is actually going to ask 4 questions, more 4 questions. And after the 15th verse, the entire first canto is response to those 4 questions. So 4 questions will be asked. Questions will be something like, tell us more about how Srimad Bhagavatam was written, when was it written, tell us about Maharaj Parikshit, and if Sukadev Goswami was an Avadut, he never stayed at one place for more than 20 minutes. he used to only, Sukadeva Goswami, he used to only stop at a place when he used to milk the cow, and he used to get the milk, drink the cow, and he used to keep moving. So he never stopped in one place. So how come Sukadeva Goswami then stopped and recited the entire Srimad Bhagavatam? So those kind of questions. So there are 4 questions that will be asked, and the entire first canto will be response to that question. So in this particular verse, it's a very important text. The purport is equally important. I think purport helps us understand the translation so much better. So Srila Prabhupada has actually come down to our level to explain what this translation is, or what this shloka is all about. Now, in this, we can see the very first thing that I could observe was the importance of proper Vaishnava etiquette. That is being highlighted over here, the importance of etiquette. And Vaishnava etiquette is, the establishment of that etiquette is so important. It says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Vaishnava etiquette is actually the ornament for a devotee. And the moment we don't progress in our bhakti, a lot of times despite chanting for so many years and reading for so many years, is a lot of offenses, Vaishnava aparad that we commit on the way. So Vaishnava etiquette is a very, very important chapter. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj is the epitome who actually talks so much about Vaishnava etiquette. He's written so many books as well. And so Vaishnava etiquette is very important, and a lot of times we forget about those etiquettes. Either we don't know about them, or we know them and we ignore them. So things like that. Like this morning, I was writing the verse on there, and Gangeshwar Prabhu just came in, and I didn't even say Hare Krishna. I said, Prabhu, the mic is not working or something. Do we have another harmonium? I didn't even say Hare Krishna to him. I didn't even look at him. I said, Prabhu, there is no harmonium. And the next second I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about this verse. I'm talking about Vaishnava etiquette. Where is my etiquette? Obviously, I apologize to him. But sometimes we get into our zone and we lose focus. We forget about the etiquette that we need to maintain. And this is a prime example of what happened just this morning. So over here we can see the etiquette is being established for the person who is congratulating Sutta Goswami, who is Śaunaka Rishi in this case. So Samstuya, so who is congratulating? It is congratulating. Samstuya means congratulating. So the first qualification is, there are 3 that has been given over here. He needs to be a Vriddha. Vriddha is elderly. The second one is Kulapati, head of the assembly. And the third one is Bhavracha, which is he was learned. Right? So there is elderly person, leader of the assembly, and he was learned. Now, can you tell me which of the 3 is most important? Elderly, leader of assembly, he was learned. Which of the 3 is most important? Learned. Yes. And the prime example is of Sutta Goswami himself. How old was Sutta Goswami when he recited Srimad Bhagavatam? He was only 16 years of age. And he was sitting in an assembly of all these rishis who were thousands of years of age back then. And he was only 16 and he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's the learned that takes precedence over everything else. Right? Now for transcendental knowledge to be properly presented, it is very important that we understand the instructions very, very carefully. The atmosphere, the purport talks about the creating the perfect atmosphere for recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here we can find that the atmosphere of proper etiquette amongst Vaishnava is being established. Without proper observance of Vaishnava etiquette, even the highest knowledge will have no effect. Because Krishna needs to, by his own free will, Krishna needs to get into the sound vibration for it to that effect. One might say that Srimad Bhagavatam, every syllable of it is divine. Yes, it is divine. But Krishna has to manifest himself in those words for us to have those realizations. So Krishna manifests himself into the transcendental sound vibration for us to get those sort of realizations, for it to create that impact. Otherwise, we'll be reading for life and it will have no effect. Though it is transcendental and we might collect some piety, but for that purification to happen, we need to make sure the atmosphere, the Vaishnava etiquette is maintained, the atmosphere is correct, and that's when the purification and the realization takes place. Right? So when I say purification and realization, there are two things, right? There is theoretical knowledge and realized knowledge. Theoretical knowledge is something you know, and realized knowledge is something you know, but also it is in your vision all the time. For example, one may go to the university and may get a lot of information, a lot of knowledge about something. That is theoretical knowledge. And then there is realized knowledge when someone puts that knowledge into his vision. For example, we know that we are not the body but the soul. We know that. That's the theoretical knowledge. But is that realized yet? That's an important question to ask. Is that if someone insults us or back answers us or talks rudely to us, does that affect us? Because that time we are thinking on the bodily platform. So which means we haven't realized that we are not the body but the soul. We are still thinking on the bodily platform. So we have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but it is very important to have that realized knowledge. And who had that realized knowledge? Srila Prabhupada himself. When in his final days, he went to Vrindavan, he recited this verse, Dehinosmin yatha dehe, komaram yoganam zara, tata dehantara praktir dhirastatra namuyati. Which means just as an embodied soul passes from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, at the time of death, the soul passes from one body to another. The wise men are not deluded by this. So Srila Prabhupada knew this, and when he went in his final days to Vrindavan, he was completely fearless. He had no fear of death. But if someone told us, okay, your child is having so-and-so disease, we'll be completely bewildered. Or, if someone insults us, we react to those situations because we haven't realized the knowledge, the information that we are receiving. An example from Srimad Bhagavatam is, of course, King Rahugana and Jadbharat. I'm sure most of you know the story, so I won't go into great details. But when he was holding the palanquin of King, he was trying to protect the ants that were on the way. So he kept on fidgeting, he kept on moving here and there. King got so disturbed by it, he said, don't do that. But he kept on doing that. And then King started speaking really offenselessly, filled with offenses, started speaking to Jadbharat. He was quiet until then. And then finally he spoke the wise words. But he was affected because he was just thinking on the bodily platform. So we need to know the difference between theoretical knowledge and realized knowledge. Because realization is something when we see something very, very deeply. Many people might go to various study groups, might do Bhakti Shastri, might speak very nicely, but purification might never take place. So it's important, I'll give you an example. This is a real example. A couple of years ago, we had a devotee over here, and the husband really was a world champion of Bhagavad Gita. He actually received there was apparently a competition back then, and he received first prize in Bhagavad Gita recitation. He was so good. But talking about realized knowledge, he didn't have that. He did so many wrong things because the knowledge was not realized. Srila Prabhupada gives another example. Actually, during Srila Prabhupada's time, there was, I don't know the Prabhu name, but his disciple memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. Now, during that time, when people didn't know Sanskrit, he recited the entire, he was in a Western body, he recited the entire Bhagavad Gita. That was a big deal. So Prabhupada said to him, don't become over-intelligent. He said that twice to him, don't become over-intelligent. And then what happened after that? Because he had already read all of that, he started looking at other shastras and other things. He started going to other sanghas, not the bona fide sanghas. And when he started going to other sanghas, what happened? He got more knowledge. And then he started coming back and saying, oh, that is so good, this is so good, that information is coming from there. Actually, Krishna did not win that war, it was Shiva who won that fight, etc. He started saying all those things. And at one point in time, he was having philosophical discussion with a beer in his hand. So he was completely lost because the knowledge he had the knowledge, but it was not realized knowledge. So we have to be very careful of just having theoretical knowledge. We need to have realized knowledge, and that can happen only with time. I'm talking about realization and purification. As adults, sometimes we get boggled in so many, in the theories itself, and we're not able to, because we're not doing it the right way, we are not able to preach. But sometimes it comes to kids so easily, right? It comes to kids so naturally. Kids might not even know any shlokas and still it comes easily to them. How is that possible? I'll give you a simple example. On my second last visit to India, I'd gone to my house, and in my house, in the altar, there are different demigods. There is Durga, Shiv, Sai Baba, there are different demigods. There's also Laddu Gopal, the baby form of Krishna, seated on the left hand side, but the main picture in the center is Durga. It was the month of Kartik. So we went there, obviously we had the picture of Yashoda Damodar. I kept it on a different table on the side to offer lamp every day. And my dad said, no, keep it in our altar. And I was like, no, it's okay. Then my Sunday mother comes and tells my dad, Nana, we can keep this picture in the altar. Can you please take Laddu Gopal, the baby form of Krishna, and this picture in the center? Can you move Durga a little bit on the side? And my dad's like, why do you want me to do that? Then he said, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's move him in the center. And he just did that. My dad just did that. I don't think I could have convinced my dad to do that. But he could do that. Out of his love, innocence, or whatever you call it, he was able to do that. So sometimes, he just said Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He didn't quote any shastras. He didn't give any theoretical knowledge. It was just that one sentence that he remembers. And he said it. When my mom recently came here, she was drinking a lot of coffee. Right? Every time you go out, what to do? Getting bored, let's have coffee. Nadia, my daughter, she told her, why do you drink coffee? Don't drink coffee. So my mom was like, why should I not drink coffee? It's okay to drink coffee. No, Prabhupada said we should not drink coffee. My mom said, okay, from today onwards I'm not drinking coffee. And she did not touch coffee after that. So kids can just do that. It was not, she didn't quote anything from the Shastras. No theory was quoted. But it was just because sometimes kids have that purity to give it, to pass it on. And as grandparents, they also listen to them. That's the side thing. But kids can do that. Right? So this etiquette that we follow, that we're talking about, Vaishnava etiquette, it's not just external. On the externals, we can see, yes, the senior elderly man should be coming here, he should be very learned. But these etiquettes have a very deep internal realization, and that is why these etiquettes are very, very important. The first, the very important thing about a person who's speaking is that he needs to be a humble servant of his guru in the parampara. If we don't consider ourselves to be the servant of the servant of the servant, and think my realizations are actually deeper than the realizations of most speakers, if we start to think on those lines, then we are not actually speaking. Krishna is not actually manifesting in the talk. Krishna only manifests when the humble attitude is displayed, when there is a submissive attitude being displayed. It's for example, one of the important things that a speaker, like we recite Mangalacharan prayers, when we take permission, we mentally take permission from the acharyas, from the seniors who are present over here. We mentally do that. We take permission to be able to speak in front of them, to be able to give pleasure to the devotees, so that, because when we give pleasure to the devotees, Krishna becomes pleased. Krishna gets pleasure in that. So even that etiquette is very, very important. Even when you're speaking, we have to follow all those etiquettes. So it says over here, there is a bona fide speaker, but there is also a bona fide hearer, someone who listens. So it's both. And when both are bona fide, that's when Krishna manifests. But if they are not bona fide, Krishna will not manifest. Right? So we are just repeating, as a speaker, I'm just meant to be repeating Srila Prabhupada's message. Transcendental words spoken by senior acharyas. I'm not doing anything else. Shri Shri Radha Govinda. So I'm just meant to be repeating. When I was asked by Raj Krishna Prabhu to first give Srimad Bhagavatam class a couple of years ago, you always feel you're not qualified and, things like that. So I went to my Guru Maharaj. I told him, I've been given this, I've been, asked to do this service, and what do you think? I always do that to my Guru Maharaj. And he said, just repeat, Sneha, just repeat. And those were such important words, and we see those words all throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, that as speakers we're just meant to be repeating. Repeating does not mean we have to repeat the exact same words. Repeating only means we are not losing the message. The message should be there. The message should be the same. There can be no deviation in the message whatsoever. And we realized over time, I'm not a great speaker, but we realized over time, when we are just repeating, the spiritual intelligence comes into the picture. And when you're seated here, initially I still remember, so I have all these notes that I have prepared in front of me, and then I would say a couple of things out of my own realizations, out of my own, day-to-day situations. That would naturally come. That naturally happens because when the Krishna, I think the spiritual intelligence also comes into picture. When Kishore Prabhu during those days told me, it is not you speaking, it is the Parampara speaking. So I am not seated. It is not my seat. It is called Vyasa Asana. It is seat of Vyasadeva. It is just a seat of the Vyasadeva. It's not my seat. Nothing is mine. Nothing is of the speaker. Nothing belongs to us. Even this body does not belong to us. Forget the Vyasa Asana. Nothing belongs to us. Even this body is a property of Krishna. Right? So, being humble is very, very important because only then Krishna will manifest. If you have ever gone to an Indian fair, I don't know if you have, and if you played that game where you shoot with the bullet to the balloons, right? And they say if you hit 3 balloons, 3 shots, you're given 3 shots, you hit 3 balloons, then you will get a gift. Right? And gift will be something like a drink or the fruities back then in India, there's a drink. But then what would the shopkeeper do? If you're able to shoot the first 2 balloons, the third one, sometimes they'll have the tendency to cheat. They'll take the bullet off and then they'll give you the gun. Because every time you go, I don't know the technical terms, but they put the bullet in, they give you the gun. You shoot, they take the gun back, they put in the bullet and then they give you again, right? Third time, shopkeeper with the tendency of cheating, he won't keep the bullet in and we shoot, nothing gets shot, but the voice is the same. Right? So similarly in Bhagavatam as well, for the real knowledge to be pierced into our heart, the bullet needs to be the real bullet. It cannot be a gun with no bullet. It needs to be a real bullet. That's when the heart gets pierced. Right? So we need a gun with a bullet. An empty gun is not going to make any difference. So similarly, if a person who doesn't have those realized knowledge is speaking, but that won't penetrate a lot of times if the person is not humble, if it is out of arrogance that the person is speaking to establish some sort of name and fame, then it won't work. There's a beautiful story. So a speaker has to get blessings, right? There's a beautiful story given by Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So there was once a speaker who had a long beard, and he used to recite he used to give Bhagavatam discourses. One time he found that he was giving this class, and there's this lady who starts to cry. And she's crying and crying, listening to the class, she just cries. She keeps on crying, and this happens for a couple of days. Every time the person with that long beard is giving the class, this lady starts on crying. Now, the speaker thought, maybe I'm giving a very good class. The moment I start to give the class, this lady starts to cry. I'm creating such a deep impact. Into her life. So, Prabhu, that beard guy, goes to the lady and asks her, so you have been crying, I've been seeing you, such deep mood you have. Tell me, which part of Bhagavatam are you liking? Is it about Maharaj Parikshit? Is it, Srimad Bhagavatam? What is happening? Is it the Krishna, Damodar? What is it that's making you cry? She said, what? She said, what are you saying? He's like, which episode do you like the most? And he says, I don't understand, what are you saying? He said, which prasanga did you like from Srimad Bhagavatam? Why are you crying so much? She says, oh, that. I'm not crying because of the lecture you gave. She says, I had a goat, and the goat had a long beard. And that goat died a couple of months ago. So every time you move and the wind makes your beard move, it reminds me of my goat. And that's why she's been crying, thinking about her goat. And the speaker thought she's crying because she is getting deep realization the way he's speaking. So this verse is very important. There's so many discourses like this happening around the world today in the name of Bhagavad Katha, where we see the speaker is in his own world, the audience is in their own world. Nobody is interested in the real crux, in the real matter, in real Bhagavatam. No one's interested in that. Sometimes people are coming there out of social pressure. My friends, they let me go. A lot of times it happens in India, the pravachins are going on. I have to go because all my friends are going. But when they go there, they're telling, oh, nice sari. They're discussing those things, right? But those things can be discussed afterwards or outside. So through this verse, we realize that the hearer must also be very, very anxious and eager to know about Krishna. Because hearing about Krishna is not a matter of formality. Though In the beginning, like Sakirai Prabhu has been pointing out all through the week, in the beginning, we may not have that real enthusiasm of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, but we must hear Srimad Bhagavatam as a matter of regulative principle. It is a regulative principle. It is what Srila Prabhupada wanted, and as an order from our spiritual master, we should hear Srila Prabhupada every day. And gradually, the mood to hear more, the eagerness will come, and the attachment to Krishna will happen. Right? We think that we don't have any attachment to Krishna. At least I think that way. I don't have any attachment to chanting. I'm just chanting 16 rounds. But in reality is very different. If you've been chanting 16 rounds or whatever prescribed, whatever number of rounds you have been chanting, say you're chanting 16 rounds, if we say today is the day when you don't have to chant any rounds. Don't chant any rounds, like 0 rounds. Nothing is going to happen. Today is an exclusive day. Srila Prabhupada is saying don't chant any rounds. Will you be able to do that? Can you stay without chanting? Can we live without chanting? Which means, knowingly or unknowingly, we are developing this attachment to chanting. We are attached to chanting. So we cannot say we are not attached to chanting. Oh Prabhu, I am not at that level. Yes, we may not be at that level, but the attachment is taking place. The process is gradually happening. In the beginning, it was easier not to chant. But once you regularly chant, you want to chant. So we want to hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, because then there will be a day where we won't be able to skip Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Srimad reading becomes very hard because it is not a part of your vows. But it is such an important thing that we have to read every day. Right? Just like we have families, even when we are away for families, for example, we see it over here, Mataji might be thinking, I don't think she is, but just an example, have my sons woken up? Do you think they must have had breakfast? Do you think Prabhu must have given them breakfast? What would I make for lunch? So people go through different thoughts. Right? We think about children even when we are seated over here. So we have to think about Krishna even when we are dealing with the outside world. Materially, we are dealing with the outside world. So we have to make sure, for that stage to come, we have to make sure that we perform our sadhana bhakti diligently. We have to be strict with ourselves. But we don't, so we have to be strict with ourselves and easy with all others. We keep on hearing that. So we should pray for that eagerness. Eagerness only comes when we pray for that eagerness. When we regularly show Krishna that you are interested in Srimad Bhagavatam. You have to show someone that you are interested in that person. That's when that person starts to take interest in you. So what happens when there's bona fide speaker, there's bona fide people who are listening to Bhagavatam, Krishna opens up our ears, He opens up our heart in such a way that message truly penetrates within our hearts, into our lives, and then realization takes place. And that is very important. And for the speaker, like I said, when you're seated on that Vyasa asana, it's not you speaking, it's the parampara that speaks, but one needs to have a very humble nature. If you don't follow the acharyas, if you don't repeat what they have said, and if you have your own messages going on, you conquered the message, then it's not going to work. So Sukadev's qualification was, that was Sukadev's Goswami's qualification, and that is the only qualification that we need. We are given respect when we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, not because of who we are, but because of who we represent. We represent Acharya, so we represent the Parampara. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, when we pay obeisances to the sannyasis who come in, we pay obeisances to the senior Vaishnavas, not because of who they are, because of who they represent. And who do sannyasis represent? They represent Tridanda, right? They represent renunciation, detachment. They have given up they're using everything, their mind, body and words in service of Krishna, and we are offering obeisances to that. We're not offering obeisances to the person, but to what they represent. So that is the mood that we need to have. Even when you see a pujari, if there are any pujaris, I can see any, we always offer first thing to Guru, Srila Prabhupada, to our Guru, and then we go up there, because nothing happens. We have to go through the desert peak section to reach Krishna. We just can't reach on our own. Jananivas Prabhu, he was saying, if there is a window, and through the window you can see the palm trees. We can see the palm trees. If there was no window, there will be brick walls that we can see. We won't be able to see the palm trees on the other side. Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly like that. It's on the other side. And Guru is the window, transparent medium. He makes us see Srimad Bhagavatam. He helps us realize our love for Krishna. He takes us closer to Krishna. But he's the transparent medium. He's always there. Guru is always there. And if we want to realize Krishna on our own, we'll see the brick walls. We will never reach. But through Guru, we will be able to see. We'll be able to understand. So even this knowledge that I'm speaking right now, that's not our property. We are simply delivering it. And so no false prestige can come in its way. So Vaishnava etiquette is not something very superficial or external, but Vaishnava etiquette is a matter of giving respect to the person speaking, giving respect to the listeners, to the hearers. It's all about giving that respect, honoring those both sides, both parties, both bona fide disciples, bona fide hearers and bona fide speaker. Now the other part, that was the first part in Vaishnava etiquette, and the other part in this particular purport highlights, gives us the definition of realization. Actually, I'll repeat that. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it. Yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. Such an important definition. And here Srila Prabhupada clearly explains what realization is in bhakti. That's what Srila Prabhupada explains. So a speaker cannot just be a show off, oh I'm better than that, I've got deeper realization. We have to present it in a way so that we can maintain the loyalty to our parampara, but at the same time, along with loyalty, we are able to maintain the sensitivity towards the audience. That is so important because a lot of times we get so entrapped into the little rules that we have that we stop to become sensitive to people. It is very important to be sensitive to the people. I come from a marketing background, and in marketing, you have to know the audience to be able to sell the product, right? For example, selling a comb to a wall. Right? Now you cannot do that. So, it is very important to understand the audience before delivering the message, and you have to be sensitive about their emotions as well. It is attained only by sincerely remembering Krishna. Right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, text 10, from chapter 10, to those whose minds are always united with me in loving devotion, I give the divine knowledge by which they can attain me. So Krishna will guide us on how to speak, what to speak. And this verse helps us to connect to Krishna, on how we can connect Krishna to Krishna within our heart and present Krishna, and how to present at Srimad Bhagavatam to the audience without any concoction. Nārada Swami gives this example of his mom. So after he became a sannyasi, Nārada Swami went and used to go and meet his mom sometimes. He went to his mother, and the mother wants to give a kiss on his cheeks. He would let his mother do that, right? Because if at that point in time he starts to explain his mom how we are not the body, but we are the soul. And I said, it wouldn't work because she's a mom. We have to be sensitive to her emotion. There is another example. Just yesterday, actually, I was somewhere, and there was this. I was at a outreach program, and there was this whole group of council people. You know how they are on the road these days before the elections. There was about 15 people, and they had organized a free barbecue. Just a barbecue there for them, actually, for them. And one of the ladies came up to us and said, "No, we wanted to invite you." She was very pleasing. "We wanted to invite all of you guys to the barbecue. We don't want you to feel left out. We really want you to come." One of the ladies said, "But we are vegetarians." So the lady from the council said, "Oh yes, we do have vegetarian options. We have vegetarian sausages for you guys." And the lady said on the other side, "But we don't eat on the same pan as yours. We need a different pan." And then she said something, and she said, "But we don't eat onion and garlic." Now we had finished off our prasadam yesterday. There was no way we were going to go to there and have barbecue. But somehow, the message that we have given to that lady is all about how we are all about rules. But at that point in time, we should have been a bit more sensitive to the lady. She was happy, she was inviting us. And when we went and gave her pasta, we had made pasta initially to her, to that team. They very happily took us, took that pasta and thank you so much, you guys are so kind. And then when she came and invited us, these are the things we told her. So we have to be very sensitive to the audience, we have to leave a positive impression everywhere we go. And this happens like all the time, especially with the parents, when we force our teenage or kids, chant, take a bath in the morning, don't enter the kitchen, don't do this, don't do that. It doesn't work. It works with kids, but doesn't work with teenagers. It doesn't work, but because we have to be sensitive to their emotions. They are going through so many things. Over time, we realize that actually kids, when we go to the office, when we have an outside job, we come back, we change immediately. We are a devotee immediately. But for them, 8 hours of the day, they're spending time outside in the material world, and the moment they're with us, we want them to change immediately. That's not going to happen. It's not going to work that way. So we have to be very sensitive to what they are going through. There was a talk going on where they said, during my times, we were not these anxious, we never got anxiety, we never had mental health issues. Why is it now that kids have those mental health issues? Well, they have it, let's accept it. And we haven't gone through what they are going through, so let's be sensitive towards it. It's because they are going through a lot. So we have to be sensitive. We cannot say, oh, that's not anxiety, come on, buck up, just do this. We cannot do that. We have to be sensitive to our audience. And that audience includes our family, our husband, our kids, not just the outsiders. And that is so important. I remember, I'm giving you, one more example. Again from the outreach program, the first time we took a couple of people to the temple. You know how we walk in, we are meant to be paying obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. That day I walked in with them. I didn't pay Srila Prabhupada obeisances, but I looked at him mentally and internally I offered those obeisances. Not because I wanted to compromise on the principle. I was just making that little adjustment so that those people feel very comfortable in the temple environment. Just imagine a new person walks into the temple room, there's a picture of Nrsimha, that was the first question they asked me, ripping apart Hiranyakashipu, and then you see all those people, paying obeisances, there is a tree, people are offering obeisances to Tulsi Maharani. So it is hard, it's just like almost us entering into a mosque. So it's almost like that. So we have to be sensitive. We can adjust the little details, but we cannot adjust the principles. The message has to be the same. But the little adjustments can be made to the little things. Just Shyamanand Prabhu is giving this beautiful discourse on Nectar of Devotion at GGG. And last time he said, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it says that you have to put tilak in a certain way. If it's merged or something on the top, then it's not Krishna, it is dog's leg. And I put my hand up and I told him, Prabhu, until now, when it was not proper, I used to see Krishna dancing on people's heads, and now I'm going to see dog's leg. So, anyways, the point is we are not ignoring the details, but we have to be sensitive about those details. Whom are we sharing those details with, and things like that. It has to be appropriately done. Otherwise, instead of getting those devotees, we are going to lose those devotees. Like Srila Prabhupada, he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam for us. He came down to our level. Right? He is an Uttamadhikari devotee. But an Uttamadhikari devotee cannot preach because he sees everyone equally. And when you see everyone equally, then how can you preach? But he came down to our level, to a Madhyam Adhikari level, to preach. Because Madhyam Adhikari devotees, what do they see? They have compassion towards everybody else. That's what they see. So Srila Prabhupada had compassion for all of us. And that is important, to have that compassion. So if he came down to our level, I think we have to follow in his footsteps and come down to the level of our audience, of the people we are around, and then preach in that way. Nārada Muni says in one of the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to be very, very creative in the way we present Krishna consciousness. It also says in the verse, we have to present it in an appropriate way. So I started with Srila Prabhupada's pastime. I'm going to end with Srila Prabhupada's pastime as well. Writing and publishing books is a very painstaking task. It involves a lot of steps. If you've ever written something, you will know it involves multiple people, right? Authors prepare the manuscript. They take help in editing work. So there is preparation of manuscript, editing of that work, approaching a publishing house, getting your books published, and then taking care of the design, printing, and distribution. There are about 10-15 big steps And in these bigger steps, we have many, many little steps. Srila Prabhupada did all of that single-handedly. He wrote, he published them, he went to the, he would stand in the printer's office to see the books getting published. He took utmost care of this getting published nicely. He used to design, he used to do everything. Everything was taken care of. So he was doing at least 15 people's job at that age. Right? And he did not just write one book. He wrote Bhagavad Gita, he wrote, Chaitanya Charitamrita, he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam, he wrote 60 enormous volumes of literatures in a matter of 15 years. 60 volumes in a matter of 15 years. So much and so that if we read one page of this every day, it would take us 122 years to complete and 15 years if we read one book monthly. So it would take us 122 years to finish Quran. Now why did an old man like Srila Prabhupada at that age took so much pain of writing these books in his final years? This is because he wanted to bring a spiritual revolution into our minds by presenting Srimad Bhagavatam in a way in which we can understand that knowledge, in a way that we can absorb that knowledge, so that our purification can happen, so that we can get realized knowledge. So he did all of that for that particular purpose in that age. I think with that, I'll quickly sum up. So we started off with Vaishnava etiquettes. In Vaishnava etiquettes, we discussed qualifications of a speaker. We need to be a bona fide speaker. You need to be a bona fide hearer. So we read that, and then we looked into the definition of realizations and how realized the knowledge needs to be preached, the information needs to be passed on in a very sensitive way, in an appropriate manner. The way it pleases is going to please the audience. With that, I'll open up the forum for any questions, corrections, comments, anything.
Congratulations.
Sorry?
Congratulations. Just about in my experience in the devotional life with devotees, it can cause such a disturbance when one particular devotee have a level of realized knowledge and the others not. So I have seen tragical. Can you hear me? Okay. So between devotees, there we can observe a different level of realized knowledge, and a realized knowledge. It's not just I realize something, that you were speaking, but also put it in practice, in everyday practice. So I remember a very dear devotee, his name was Gopinath Acharya Prabhu. He was the first wide-bodied Australian who could recite the entire Bhagavad Gita, all the 700 verses. But it comes with realized knowledge also, and that actually killed him, literally, because that realized knowledge, he wrote 2 books, which he gave it to me also, that the importance of a Krishna consciousness community, farming community, is to do farming. Number 1 is cow protection, cows and bulls engaged in to be self-sufficient. And also he, as a brahmachari, full-time brahmachari, never get married, very, very strict brahmachari. He also demonstrated how to grow grains with block powers, and also to produce milk products and everything. So he was so much realized that he was churning butter just in the bucket, and when he got sick of it, he handed it to other devotees just to do it in an ancient way. But unfortunately, the clashes between realized knowledge is actually he being banished to follow and to follow the realized knowledge, to do what the Prabhupada wanted for farming community. So, just brought me back some very sad memories. So realized knowledge in a different level can cause conflict. It's very sad. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
So then what's the connection between his realized knowledge and him getting killed?
Those who were in charge, they did not have that realized knowledge that the farming community meant for producing grains and protecting the cows. Right now, yoga is more important. It's very sad.
This was with devotees. The other people are also devotees.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's an entire devotee community.
Yes. So that's my point.
Yes.
Different level of realization can
Yes.
bring sad conflicts.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Mataji. Just like to comment on how you have emphasized as well importance of Srila Prabhupada, and there is so much information out there, and the tendency is always to present something new, something spicy. But if we just stick to Srila Prabhupada and his mood, and follow the mood of the parampara through the mood that Srila Prabhupada has said, I remember I had read once that even if the mood of the spiritual master or the instructions of previous acharyas is not the mood of the spiritual master, we should not jump the mood of the spiritual master, we should just follow the mood of the spiritual master, and that's a very safe situation to be in. And we are so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has left volumes of books, and one lifetime may not be enough to read those. So just sticking with those instructions in Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and other books Prabhupada has written, is more than enough. I don't know if we can chew it all in one lifetime, but we can try.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you for sharing. Let's stick to Srila Prabhupada's books. Anybody else? No? So, okay, then I think it's time for breakfast. Grant from Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Bhakti Mataji ki.